One of the main reasons why you choose consumptive behaviors like scrolling your phone or shiny new objects instead of finishing your projects is because you lack emotional awareness when it comes to moving through learning curves. So I want to draw you a quick diagram that gives a high-level view or understanding of how emotional awareness affects and influences long-term consistency with regard to not using consumptive or avoidant behaviors and instead taking action on the thing that you wanted to actually be doing in that time, which likely was your work or a passion project or just anything that would make you feel happy or joyful instead of scrolling your phone until 2 a.m. in the fucking morning, because we both know that isn't what you want to be doing. Ignore the shit on over here. So we'll just right here. I'm going to draw you a diagram that is not new. It's not something I came up with, but I am going to annotate it in a way that is somewhat novel, I believe, and will give you a good perspective, a tangible or practical perspective on how emotional awareness can influence and unlock consistency and be a part of the system that you use to overcome avoidant and consumptive behaviors like scrolling or starting new projects instead of doing the one that you wanted to. The diagram is pretty simple. It's called the dip, and it looks like this. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the components of the dip. Number 1 is the invocation. It is the start of the dip. The dip is also known as a learning curve. What is a learning curve? A learning curve is simply the experience of going through a moment in time where you go from not knowing something to knowing something. That's it. It comes in many different flavors. It comes in many different durations. It exists on macro scale of like you do a university degree. It exists on micro scales as far as like you learn how to use the quadratic formula, right? You start in a place you don't know and you end up in a place where you do understand the thing. And between those 2 points is the learning curve. You want to get from point 1 to point 4, or there's another variation on it that we'll talk about, but that's the general premise. Why do we want to go through learning curves? Well, we want to learn things. If you don't want to learn things, don't go through learning curves. But then don't expect to get anything in life because you don't know anything. So, yeah. Now we've set the premise. A learning curve takes you from 0 to 1. You don't know something, now you know something. It takes duration of time, a duration of intensity, etc. And the reason we do it is so that we can know things. And knowing things is fun. I like to surf. I like to body surf and play in the ocean. All of that requires learning curves. There are periods of time where I don't know something, and then I know something, and then I get to do the thing, and it's fun. So there are learning curves in things that are monotonous and boring, but also things that are just genuinely enjoyable. Now, like I said, we have the invocation of the learning curve. We have initiated the learning curve. Sometimes the invocation is conscious. We choose to learn something. Sometimes it is subconscious, meaning we allow our conditions or our environment to invoke a learning curve for us. Second, we have this moment where we recognize that in order to actually learn the thing, it's going to take more effort than we thought it would. And this is an important note that I will touch on in a minute here. Number 2 is the place where we realize the learning curve is probably going to take more energy or effort than we thought it was at 1. There, now we get to 3. People call the dip. I call it the valley of death. I'm actually going to write that down. Valley of death. It might seem serious, and that's because it is serious. This is the place where dreams fucking die. This is the place where lives die, probably, if I had to guess. This is the place where my projects and my life, my life didn't die, but this is the place where my projects died. This is the place where I fell off track. This is the place you want to draw a lot of attention to. And then 4 is the movement out of the learning curve, right? You've gone out of it, you've learned the thing, and then, actually, guess what happens after that? Mini scale. Here's our dip, 1, 2, 3, 4. Another one. We keep learning and we keep growing if, and only if, we go through the full learning curve. Now what happens if instead of moving through the learning curve, we don't, and we choose avoidant behaviors or distractions or procrastination or other shiny new things and don't accomplish the learning curve? So we're like 1, 2, 3, we're going into the dip here. Oh, but we don't want to go through the duration of the dip. We don't want to do the hard thing. We choose something new. We go down and then we start the dip again. And if we don't go out of the learning curve, we go into a new one. And it just goes down this downward cycle. So instead of going up and learning through the learning curve and then growing, we regress. We literally regress because we're choosing not to go through the valley of death. And I'm going to explain how we do that here in a second. All right. Reiterate, learning curves are important because they allow us to grow and excel and do fun and cool things. If we don't go through the valley of death, we don't learn, and then we regress. And then our projects and our dreams die. Sorry. But that's how that goes. How do we use the concept of emotional awareness to bring attention to how we can more effectively move through the valley of death? Because that's the crux, right? It's easy to start things. Once we start things, we always find out that it's harder than we originally thought it was going to be. And then once we find out that it's actually harder than we thought it was going to be, we go into the dip or the valley of death, because that's where we actually encounter the demons. That's where the hero goes outside of the fence into the unforeseen territory, and he learns, or she learns, and encounters the monsters and slays the monsters and comes back with growth and new knowledge, and they accumulate and keep going forward. That's the premise, right? So we have to learn how to go through the valley of death. One of the reasons why people fail is they don't even know they're in it. You think you're over here. You think you're anywhere but here. And so if you don't know where you are in the learning curve, it's very difficult to move through it because you feel like you should have already moved through it. You feel entitled to being at number 4 when the reality is you only get to number 4 because you go through number 3. Awareness is the precedent to change. We must be aware in order to consciously change something. If we're not aware, it doesn't mean change can't occur. It's just we're leaving it up to chance. Right? And the likelihood is that if you're in the valley of death and you're not intentional about it, you're probably going to fall off track and choose something else like you've been doing. This is why you go scroll your phone, scroll on freaking Hinge, or do whatever to waste your time instead of actually doing the thing you meant to be doing and learning and going through. So if awareness is the precedent to change and we want to understand how to change, then we have to understand how to be aware. So one way of becoming aware of where we are in the learning curve is through our emotions. And this is where all the women go, yeah, man, we told you that you should be emotionally aware. And all the men go, I don't need this. I just fucking brute force. There's a wall made of bricks and I just explode it with fucking dynamite and then I go up. Yeah, sometimes. Usually not. Let's be real. What does the emotional state of 1, 2, 3, and 4 look like? What is the experience of being in each of these places such that we have a high probability of identifying, oh, when I experience this, when I feel this, when I hear myself saying this, I'm likely in one of these 4 places. And that means I can use different tools or different resources or different action steps in order to make forward progress. Because the thing you do at 1 is different than the thing you do at 3. This is more of a prioritization problem because we have to be choosing the right learning curve that we're going through. During experiences number 1 and number 4, those are places where we need to be effectively filtering and prioritizing, right? These are prioritization problems because if we're at number 1 or we're at number 4, it means we're likely feeling some level of momentum and energy and excitement. What do we do when we're energetic or motivated or excited? We start new shit. We're engineers. We're scientists. We're entrepreneurs. We fucking build things. Oh, limitless power, limitless energy. It's so exciting. Let me start 12 projects. These are prioritization problems. Well, partly. There are other elements there at play as well. Number 2 and number 3 tend to be places where we need to be implementing tools that support us with emotional resilience. Because we're going to be going through something difficult, we need to be supporting ourselves to go through something difficult, not to start new bullshit. Because what happens if we start new bullshit? It becomes too much or we can't handle the emotions. We scroll our phone. We go to Hinge. We go to new bullshit. We go to new things. And that is how you fail. That is how you fucking fall off the bat, right? Okay, so when we're in different places in the dip or in the learning curve, we want to be supporting ourselves in different ways. Number 1 is going to be different than 2, different than 3, etc. And that is the main point of this video. And so with that, I just want to give a couple examples of what the states of being look like in these places. And in this moment, you can probably recognize where you are amongst them, right? You can probably, based off of the descriptions I'm about to give, be like, oh, that's where I am. And I've been treating it with tools or resources aimed at doing something this way. And that is the reason why I'm falling off track, because I'm actually not supporting myself in the right way, given where I am in the learning curve with some specific topic. Also worth mentioning, if you do this improperly, you start 700 learning curves. So you're actually going through the valley of death on a bunch of different learning curves. And if you're going through that many difficult experiences that all require some amount of emotional resilience, you're guaranteeing that you're going to fall off track because you did 1 wrong. So there are other elements to it. But let's just look at 1. What is 1 characterized by? 1 is this space where we feel like, for whatever reason, maybe it's because we're avoiding a learning curve we're already in. Maybe it's because we actually accomplished something and we have space in our life. Maybe we just woke up on the right side of the bed and we're just feeling jazzed. Number 1 is characterized by excitement. You're happy. You're motivated. You're moving. You have momentum likely. You feel a little bit lighter. You feel like you have a little bit of space on your plate. The feeling on your shoulders is a little bit drop down like that. You're in a space where whether you do or not, you feel like you have the space and the energy required in order to pursue something new. in order to build a new project at your home or on your computer or at work, or pursue it really fervently or passionately. That's number one. Okay, so number one is happy, right? We're stoked, we're grooving. Number two is like a bit uncertain, right? It is the initial resistance. You've heard these voices in your head where you go, oh, maybe this isn't the thing I should be doing. Oh, did I just overcommit myself again? Oh, this is a little bit harder than I thought it was. This is your first no's when you're selling something or building a new project. These are the first big bugs you fix. This experience is like, oh, this guy was potentially wrong. He was a bit over ambitious, right? And you know this cycle very well, I'm sure, if you've made it to this point in this video. So number two is uncertain. There's a little bit of tension. There's a little bit of anxiety. It's the first time where we hear the voices in the back of our head go, oh, I've been in this position before. I wonder if I should do this. I wonder if this is the right thing to be doing with my time, all that kind of stuff. This is dangerous, right? Because we're in this moment where we are either deciding if we're going to immediately bail out and start something else, or we're going to prioritize something else, go scroll our phone, avoiding behaviors, whatever. This is the initial moment where we start to question the decision made in one, whether it was conscious or unconscious. Remember that, because these times when you make unconscious decisions to go through learning curves, if you don't have an effective filter or method of prioritization, this is something that you experience on like a daily basis. All right, finally, we have made it to the valley of death. All right, we started out happy, right? We started something new. We felt light. We went up here. Oh, maybe, I don't know. I wonder if this is the right thing to be doing. All that kind of stuff shows up. We start to feel a little bit indecisive. We choose for the moment. You're like, all right, let's push through this. We enter into the valley of death. Now, the valley of death is the most important piece of the entire dip, of the entire learning curve, right? The valley of death is where you grow. It's where you learn. It's where you encounter the demons, encounter the monsters, you slay them, you come back with the knowledge. This is a super important piece. Without this, there is no growth. There's no human experience. There's no story arc. There's no heroes. There's no journeys. This is the beauty of life. But if you're not prepared to go through the valley of death, you're going to bail out. And you're not going to go through it. You don't ever get to experience number four, which you actually, you never get to experience number four. What you experience as number four is actually number one, because you bailed out and you started a new learning curve and you thought it was number four because you had the momentum and the experience, the positive experience of what you think is number four, but it's not. It was number one again. You're fucked because you're constantly number 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Nothing. You get no fours. You get no growth, no learning. Obviously, it's a little facetious, but that is the basic premise of this, right? Is you are mistaking starting new bullshit or the cheap dopamine of your phone or whatever it is with the experience of legitimate growth. And they're different. They're literally different. One of them is regression and one of them is growth. Really dangerous. Let's go back to the lesson. In order to change, in order to grow through an experience, we must be aware. Awareness is the precedent of change. We understand that the valley of death isn't a bad thing. It's just that it's the valley of death because most people fall off track during this moment. But if we want to get to number four, if we want to grow, we must go through it. And so if we must go through it, we must experience it and have the privilege of going through it, we must learn what it is like so we can characterize it such that when we're in the moment, we go, oh, I'm in the valley of death. I'm in the dip right now. Oh. You're like, oh, I'm in the dip right now. And instead of the experience being indecisive and negative, you go, oh, I chose this. This is actually really important for me. It reframes the valley of death. And now you're like, wow, what a privilege, because I'm learning. I am going through the thing and I get to decide if I'm going to go through this and grow, or I get to decide if this is not the right thing to be doing and moving out. But I'm not just avoiding the hard work that must be done in order to go through the curve. And the valley of death tends to be characterized by several very consistent experiences. One of them is disorganization. Disorganization. You know the feeling of chaos? Imagine your desk is full of papers, right? It's chaos, it's disorganized. And you conflate that with something being wrong. But of course it's disorganized. You're going through a learning curve. You don't know how to file all the papers yet. So of course it's disorganized, right? So beginners with this will typically go like, oh man, I can never learn. I can never go through these learning curves. I can never grow in this way that I want to and be as effective. I'm always disorganized. Good. Correct. You must learn how to organize. That's a piece of going through the valley of death. So being aware that you feel disorganized is actually the precedent. It is awareness of the obstacle or the emotional experience. It is the precedent to changing that. Because once you become aware, you're like, oh, I feel disorganized. I must be in a learning curve. I must be in the dip. Did I choose this dip? Number one, oh yeah, I chose. This is a thing at work that I'm doing. This is a project that I decided I'm doing, and I feel disorganized. I intentionally put myself through 1. 2, I found out it was harder than I thought it was going to be. I decided to keep going through it. Now I'm in 3. I'm in the dip. I'm in the valley of death. I feel disorganized. What an opportunity to organize my thoughts, to create the capacity or the competency in overcoming this chaos that is associated with this learning curve that is inevitable, because all worthy learning curves have the valley of death. They all have this feeling or this emotion associated with it. So disorganization is one. A second one is doubt. Why? Because there is uncertainty, right? Of course there's uncertainty. Of course there's doubt. You don't know what 4 looks like or feels like yet, right? And so there is a doubt because you have not experienced the thing yet. And so if you haven't experienced the thing yet, how could you know what it looks like? If you don't know how to organize the files yet, how could you know what they look like when they were organized? How could you know what the emotion is? How could you have that exact vision yet? You don't. So you have some sort of doubt, some sort of uncertainty that shows up. That's okay. But once again, we go, oh, I'm feeling disorganized. I'm a bit chaotic. Things are all over the place, whether it's files in my GitHub repo or on my actual physical desk. I'm having a bit of doubt because I keep running into these walls and I can't fix them. I'm feeling a bit uncertain. Is this even possible? That is a characterization of being in the valley of death very consistently. That doesn't mean it's the right valley of death. It doesn't mean it's the right dip to be going through, but it does mean you're likely in it. And these are just 2 of a handful of different ways that we come to terms with or become aware of if we're in the dip in any given moment, if we're in the valley of death in any given moment. But what happens when we are consistently able to identify, based off of our emotions or other variables at play, when we're in the dip, is we get the opportunity to intentionally move through it. And how do we do that? We equip ourselves with the right tools or the right protocols, the right procedures, the right support in these moments to tangle with these specific obstacles. And that isn't the point of this video. I have plenty of videos on equipping yourself with tools. One just very high level example of that is if you're feeling doubt or uncertainty associated with the learning curve, speaking to someone who has expertise in the field you're in, or who has awareness of the field you're in, or the problem you're facing, asking for help from someone who has a high likelihood of being able to, if not help you, give you perspective on if the thing is possible or if the approach you're taking to it is possible, stuff like that, if that's how you're going through. That's one effective tool that you can use in order to overcome the obstacle of doubt and uncertainty associated with the valley of death. Now, there are other experiences that also characterize this dip, but that is the basic premise. We use the experience that is associated with it to identify that we're in it. And then because we know we're in it, we equip ourselves with the right tools to help us to move through this experience more effectively. Now, one of the dangerous quirks of the valley of death is that depending on how big or large the learning curve is, we don't know how long it's going to take because there's uncertainty, right? And so we must support ourselves to be emotionally resilient with regard to these obstacles because we don't know how long they will last. And by supporting ourselves with these and other appropriate, maybe like technical tools in order to expedite the process, this is where like specific content or courses or tutorials might come into play in order to expedite this process. We, using the right tools, can lessen the amount of time that learning curves take, but we can't preclude them altogether. We must go through them if we want to grow. Now, obviously, number 4 is what we want. This is the experience we want. Kind of. To start off with, it's what you want, right? Because number 4 characterizes growth. It characterizes learning. And so everyone wants to be in number 4. But the reality is, to master this, you want to learn how to live in number 3. You want to learn how to live in the valley of death. Make a home in there. Make it happy, make it supportive, have the right tools, build a little home in there. Oh, everyone's like, oh, valley of death. And you're like, yeah, dude, valley of death. Fucking sick, dude. I love it in there. I spend all my time in there. And instead of the valley of death, it becomes like a valley of growth, right? It still has the chaos, the disorganization, the uncertainty, the doubt, all those kind of things, but you're so well supported in order to handle them that you reduce the emotional intensity that's usually associated with it. And when you do that, what happens is that only the really dramatic, intense learning curves drive you into a space where it's really daunting. Right? Because the medium or the small size ones, you're just prepared for those and you move through it and you get the 4 all the time. Right? And so, yeah, we want to be in 4, which is also characterized by happiness. This is stoke. This is like you catching the waves, you're building the business, you're doing you're pushing the code, whatever it is, you're doing the thing. It's stoked. It's probably like, actually, got teeth in that smile. It's all horrible. terrifying smiley face. Anyways, stoked. Great. What do you do in number 4? You decide if you want to go back to number 1 with a new learning curve and go up. But you only live in number 4 for so long. And so, yes, it is important to characterize number 4 as well. Number 4 is characterized by pride. It's characterized by self-trust because you went through the learning curve. Right? This is a good experience up here. But because you feel proud and because you feel self-trust, you're like, you know what? I'm going to go back to number 1. I'm going to prioritize more effectively. And I know that I'm going to go into this valley, this dip again with something, but it's going to be of higher leverage because I know I have less time and less energy than I originally thought I did. And so I'm going to choose more effectively the next time that I enter the learning curve. And that is why we use emotional awareness when it comes to performance, because the emotions or the experience of different phases of the learning curve dictate what way we must support ourselves in order to more efficiently expedite the process of going through them. Because if we want to pursue our dreams, if we want to achieve large goals, if we don't want to waste our fucking life scrolling our phone or through some dating app or whatever your poison of choice is, whether it's starting new projects and never finishing the old ones, never documenting them, opening up 500 tabs and doing a bunch of research. If you want to stop doing that and start finishing things, start following through and be like the guy in your office or in your community who's everyone's just, holy shit, how do you do so much? You use your emotions to identify where in the learning curve you are. You support yourself with the specific tools in that place or protocols in order to expedite the process, and you grow. And you go from number 1 to number 4 more often instead of 1 to just like hole of death, whatever that is, more often. And then people look at you and they're like, holy shit, how'd you do that? And you look at yourself and you're like, oh, I know exactly how I did that. Emotional awareness. Anyways, I'm Flint from iAlign. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe, follow this channel. And if this is something that you want mastery over, reach out. It's something I can support you with. Peace.